Hi guys, and welcome to a very special episode of FC PopCorn, a film companion original, where I am going to be in conversation with some of my favorite minds to talk film reviewing. Anu, Rahul, Prathyush, thank you so much for doing us. Or as I like to refer to you in my head, the Kabir, Tiger, and Pathan of film reviewing.
Who is who?
Yeah, you guys can decide. I'm hoping to start this with a fight, so you guys can just decide.
Kabir is good.
Okay. Rahul was in there fast.
I need to be Pathan.
Then who am I then?
The
Salman
other one.
Khan.
Yeah,
Okay,
okay.
I'm fine.
I'm going to start with a quote, which is something that Prathyush wrote in a piece he wrote about criticism for his Hindu column, where when he was writing about reviewing, and he said, I often think of critic Rahul Desai's book reviews more than I think of the books themselves. Charm, that is what Desai said, is the most important thing a critic needed, and a part of that charm is both honesty and a mind that does not express honesty as hostility or hubris. So just on that, what do you guys think is the most important quality for a critic to have?
I love the idea of charm being the most important, but the definition of charm being
Open to interpretation.
Open to interpretation. That's quite fabulous.
Because when she was talking up, so Parul Sehgal, literary critic, she used to write weekly reviews for the New York Times, and she would write about books that I really wouldn't care about. But I loved how she brought her perspective into the book. Even the way she shredded books, her most famous review is when she shredded Arundhati Roy's second book for The Atlantic. She takes the knife and cuts through the book, and it feels like she's cutting through butter. There's such a grace and charm with which she writes. And she talks about criticism because she said that the limitation was the format. And so for her as a critic, she wants to hold the reader into the piece and excite them about the book, even if it's bad.
How lovely.
So for me, I've used that as the gold standard for criticism, because I am one of those people who thinks that criticism is an art form. It's not parasitic. It does not exist only because films exist. Film criticism can exist as a separate art form, that you can come to a film critic to read what they have said, not just to get a collection of adjectives about a film that they're interested in.
Absolutely. Earlier in my career, I would read like Richard Collis, just to know the writing, just to read those words and how he strung them together, because many of those movies would never come. So we had no access to see those films. But just to read his writing, because it was so beautiful. But we're still not answering Suchin's question.
No, but then let me ask you about that. Is that then somewhat part of the goal, that people are reading you and Rahul and Prathyush at some point because they want to hear from you, regardless whether they've seen the film or not? They're coming for you. Is that sort of part of the goal in any way?
Honestly, I think that would be too arrogant to say, come for me. Yeah. I'm not that person. I could never say it. But I just want to give an informed opinion that is adding to your experience of the film. Like Prathyush said, I never want to stop people from watching movies. I love movies. And that's the point I think most people miss about film critics, that they actually are movie lovers. Everybody just thinks of us as we're just sitting, curdled. And waiting to stick our knives in it. But we're not. And so I want people to see movies, but I would love for them to just maybe see something in this film that they wouldn't have otherwise if they hadn't read what I said. So that's really for me the goal. What's the most important thing? I think given the environment we live in, perhaps integrity. Because I just feel like everything is for sale right now, from tweets to posts to, anything. And therefore, maybe if you come to it with integrity, that itself should count for a lot. I mean, ideally, it should be a given. Good writing, an informed take should be what's really important. But I think right now, integrity is key.
The bar is low.
The bar is very low. Rahul?
Yeah, that's the stage we are at, unfortunately. I mean, if you ask a lot of aspiring critics right now, they were like, we like you because you're honest. I'm like, but that's...
that should be a given.
That's like breathing, right? That should be, it should be like that. But you're also a product of the times you're in. So you have to acknowledge that sure, it's a trait we need and it should be a given once you come into this line. But for me personally, I feel like obviously charm is a very good sort of word to use, but again, it's very all-encompassing in a way. So as I've grown over the years, I've realized that I like to sort of I like to have a sense of storytelling in my reviews. Like as you said, it's an art form too. And I've always believed that it's not just parasitic. For me, when I'm writing a review, it's also from a selfish point of view, because I want to be in a conversation with the reader. I want to tell the reader about not just the film, but a little about myself and through what I think about the film. And I like to establish that relationship with the reader. So a lot of reviews, I try to put a narrative in it. If the film isn't doing it for me, then you make the review something of a film in itself.
So give them more than just, here's what I thought of the film.
Yeah. Exactly. Like I remember reviewing, I think, Gaslight last week. I didn't hate it as much as a lot of other critics did, but I did realize that it failed at, like, say, very basic thing, like a twist in the end, right? I was like, there's one twist and there's the second twist. I like, okay, if it failed at it, let me maybe design my review in a way where the twist comes towards the end. Because most of the review is like, these are the strengths of the film, but this is what it tried to do. And let me tell you now what it really was. It failed. So sometimes it's nice to play with the form without being too pretentious, without being too self-indulgent. But like with any kind of writing, I feel like I think we are allowed to get indulgent in the art form. And I think that's when our voice comes out. That's when charm becomes part of it. That's when I think that's when your personality sort of seeps into your writing. And sometimes it takes years, sometimes it takes days. I don't know. But it really depends on how, what sort of life experience you'd like to utilize when you're writing your reviews.
I think with the honesty thing, more than, like you said, like you said, that the fact that everything is bought, more than the fact that we are sort of just honesty is the bare basics, it's actually got to the point where multiple people I've spoken to have to sort of ask me, people, maybe someone from the industry, they'll say, there's always that question of, but it is, it is honest, right? There's always that question of, like, is it? And, like, I'll never defend, how good I am at my job, but I'll always defend FC. Like, I know what we do and how much it matters and how hard all of you work. And that always annoys me, that I guess it speaks to our success that, we are a voice that people take seriously, but there's always that thing of, they always have to double check that you guys are, right? And you have to be like...
I guess because it's so hard to believe, no, Suchin.
Which is so sad. It's really steep to that level. Yeah. But I really wanted to talk to all of you about, to really just sort of take apart the process of writing a review, just going through the life cycle of a single review and what that looks like end to end. Because I think a lot of people have a lot of thoughts and misconceptions about that. So let's say you're just hypothetically reviewing X film. So you're reviewing a film this week or a show. So what happens before that screening? How often are you, I know this is a case-by-case basis, but how often are you reading up, researching, reading around the film? Is that something that you do, and what does that look like?
I do it for every film.
Yeah.
I look at all the trailers. I try and see what other information they put out there. I will kind of read through articles. If it's a remake, I really struggled with whether I should see the original or not, but I've decided I have to see the original just to see what the reinterpretation was. So I will try and watch, the original. So that's what, so Prathyush, that's my struggle, because and it started actually not with the remake, but with BA Pass, because that was based on a short story. And then I read the story, so I knew what would happen. And then I didn't really enjoy the film so much. And I was like, but should I have just gone into it blind, But I have massive imposter syndrome, and I just feel
not as much as mine, but it's not a competition.
I think everyone knows.
No. I always feel with the next review, they're going to find out that I don't know Jack. So I have to just work harder than everybody else to at least know the basics.
That's so funny to me, because I don't think you guys, the three of you, know how much you fuel imposter syndrome. But the fact that you feel it yourselves kind of humanizes it. But yeah, what about Rahul, Prathyush, what about you guys? How much do you ever do that? Is it a case-by-case basis?
So with the remakes, I really struggled with it, because there's a sense that your review becomes a comparison, right? Because now suddenly you find that, okay, the essence of the film is this. like, for example, take Selfie, right? What the essence of the original film was and how they've completely changed it. And so then your review becomes a conversation about how two films and two industries are not able to approach the same story with the same honesty.